All right, a good evening to all of you across Facebook and YouTube. Depending on where you are watching us this evening, you can find this stream on Facebook and YouTube. I'm forecaster Nick Dunn here with Zach Batten. We're going to be giving you a severe weather threat update, looking at some newer model runs that are beginning to come in tonight and kind of analyzing some things. And we've been kind of talking with our team throughout the day kind of on what our thoughts about this severe weather threat could be for tomorrow. There's a couple different outcomes of how things may unfold, so we'll give everybody just a couple of seconds. If you're over on YouTube, this is our first time doing a live feed over on the YouTube side, so let us know if you can hear us over there. To let us know what you guys are seeing over there. Would be appreciating any comments that you might find over there. And it's going to be an interesting next 24 to 36 hours, and I'm going to bring Zach in now. And Zach, we have been talking about this for what seems like, I don't know, it seems like a long time because, days are kind of getting all mingled together at the moment, but a couple different scenarios may unfold, and this could be, depending on how things go, maybe one of the better severe weather threats of the season so far, depending on how things pan out.
Yeah, the ingredients are certainly there. It has potential to really explode tomorrow, but so far from what we've seen, none of the models can agree on anything. There's definitely some limiting factors that some of the models are picking up on. So we'll have to see if we get enough instability realistically to kind of break through the cap, get those storms fired up. If not, definitely mostly a nighttime threat with just mainly damaging wind. But hopefully when the models come out tomorrow, we'll have a better look at exactly what's going to happen and see if the models can actually agree with each other.
Yeah, that's a good point. And right now we're going to go and bring up a look at the radar. And as you can see right now, most of us are dry. You may be seeing a few showers on the radar, especially north of I-70, but for the most part, we're not seeing most of this reaching the ground. We've got a lot of dry air to overcome first, but this will kind of help moisten the atmosphere a little bit for what will likely set the stage for an active late overnight and into the sunrise hours of tomorrow morning. And then from there, things kind of get a little muddy in terms of how the rest of the day and into the night and even into early Wednesday morning may unfold. But you're taking a look right now at the radar. We're seeing some scattered showers, again, mainly north of I-70. Some of this not reaching the ground. Where it is reaching the ground is up here across northeast Indiana, southern lower Michigan. And this is kind of the area we're going to have to watch. You're starting to see some light shower activity starting to come together. It's going to take a little while for it to really get organized. We really think that most of this likely won't organize until well after midnight, especially near Chicago. It'll kind of be the initiation zone from what we're seeing here. Some of you guys are saying you're not seeing the map. Hopefully you're able to see the radar. It looks okay on my end. I'm not sure how it looks on everybody else's end, so hopefully you're able to see that. But again, you're seeing the radar now into motion, hopefully. Again, not much right now. We are kind of in the developing stage, and we will see how things look here in the next couple of hours. But this is going to be the area we have to watch. We'll see some thunderstorm development a little bit later on. So that's kind of where things stand right now. It's rather quiet, and if you got a chance to enjoy the sunshine today, I hope you did, because we're not going to be seeing much of it tomorrow, and we may not be seeing much of it on Wednesday, and maybe even into Thursday as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the sunshine and warmth today. Let's move over now to our headlines and kind of what we're going to be talking about here this evening. And then I'll turn things over to Zach with a look at the Storm Prediction Center breakdown and some other things that we'll look into model data. So the headlines tonight, rain and thunderstorms are going to begin to increase. We do expect that to happen again well after midnight and into tomorrow. We'll show you some model data eventually as well. Some isolated severe weather possible with that. Again, we don't expect this initial round to really be anything to write home about. This is just going to kind of be a precursor, but again, those of you that like thunderstorms and like rain, you're going to like the forecast, I think, overall. There's a better severe risk on Tuesday, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the forecast. We're going to talk about that, and depending on how things turn out, all severe weather hazards are possible. So that's kind of where things stand with that. And Zach, I'm going to turn it over to you now. You can kind of walk us through what the Storm Prediction Center has starting with tonight.
Yeah, so tonight, we're looking at the chance for thunderstorms for realistically most of the state of Ohio. A couple exceptions there, but in particular, northwest Ohio, northeast Indiana, the SPC has outlined a marginal risk. So there's a chance for isolated storms, damaging wind, hail would be the main threat with any storm that can kind of sustain itself. Definitely a late night, really almost towards morning event. Those storms will gradually move southeast through the day, may or may not maintain strength. The National Weather Service in Wilmington and Cleveland really kind of expect them to die off in the afternoon. So really tomorrow afternoon doesn't look too bad. So we get through tonight, nothing major, damaging wind mainly, isolated, not expecting much coverage really, but rain for a lot of people. Flooding also could be a concern. If the storms in particular kind of north of I-70, they have a chance to train, so there's just one storm after another. If that happens, flooding can definitely be a concern as well. Looking at the threat for tomorrow, couple different scenarios here. Most of the state right now outlined under the slight risk, so that is level 2 out of 5. Northern half of the state, or northern realistically like fourth of the state, marginal risks, so 1 out of 5. Right now, first scenario, storms clear out early in the morning. We get some sun. It looks like there's a chance that some isolated storms could pop up during the afternoon. If this is the case, if these storms can get through, there's a chance they could pose all hazards, so hail, tornado, damaging wind. The tornado threat in general is pretty low, so not a huge concern there, mainly damaging wind and hail. There will be a cap in place, so this cap essentially limits the height that the thunderstorms can build. If the thunderstorms can't get strong enough to break through that cap, then the severe risk remains low, and you really just get some showers out of it. That's what right now it looks like most of the models are suggesting is the case. The National Weather Service seems to kind of agree there. That cap is going to be too strong, and that holds the severe weather threat until tomorrow night, mainly, realistically, probably after 10 o'clock or so for most of the area. Storms will roll through, more than likely as bowing segments, so damaging wind being the main threat there. Isolated tornado can't be ruled out, though not a high chance, but definitely not zero. So far, we're still trying to see if the models can agree with each other. Right now, none of them do. Some have storms, some really limit the coverage and hold it off to our west, kind of in southern Illinois and southern Indiana. We'll just kind of have to wait and see how the atmosphere develops tomorrow. The conditions are there. If the storms can develop early enough, being overnight, the severe threat, the instability kind of goes down, so the severe threat overall is generally lessened, but definitely damaging winds are a good possibility. Just kind of a quick overview of the kind of threat levels we face for the next 2 days, tonight and tomorrow. Again, marginal risk, isolated storms, not necessarily intense, generally don't last long. Nothing really to write home about, but definitely you still want to kind of pay attention, make sure you have a way to get warnings. As always, with any storm, the tornado threat is never zero. Flooding's still going to be a big concern, especially with as much rain as we've had over the last few weeks. There's definitely still some saturated ground out there. And then moving on to Tuesday, with that slight risk, more coverage generally. An isolated intense storm is possible, but overall still short-lived, not super widespread, but it definitely looks like coverage tonight compared to tomorrow night, coverage is definitely going to be higher. So as always, make sure you have multiple ways to get warnings. During the day, maybe if an isolated storm can pop up, you could see a warning, but definitely tomorrow night, especially as you go to bed, you want to make sure you have a way to get those warnings. That way, as those storms roll through, you don't get caught sleeping. A quick kind of overview of the threats tomorrow. Again, the tornado threat is low. It's not zero, but it is pretty low. It looks like being overnight, that's going to limit the threat for the most part. Hail, wind, and flooding, all kind of right there, medium. Hail, if any of the storms can get build up high enough, hail will be kind of the bigger threat there, but with mainly the Boeing segments, wind and flooding definitely look like the biggest threats there. Kind of a regional look at the threat levels. For the most part, tonight, it's mainly Northwest Ohio. Tomorrow, it's mainly the kind of the south half of Ohio, realistically. There are a couple models that suggest potentially Northern Ohio and Northeast Ohio might see a little more storm coverage. We'll have to wait and see how the models look tonight and tomorrow and see if the Storm Prediction Center kind of agrees there.
All right, thanks for that, Zach. I appreciate that. That hopefully will kind of answer most of everybody's questions. So now I want to go over to the models, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about this, and we'll kind of break it down and kind of show you what the models are showing, because, again, there could be a couple of different scenarios in terms of how this plays out. So first of all, we kind of look at this is one of the models that we call, this is one of the versions of the WRF model. It's a very high resolution model, runs a couple times a day, but I kind of want to run through how the next couple of days may look. So if you look at tonight's convection, it kind of really gets going. This model seems to be doing fairly well on picking up the showers that we're seeing there now. As we get towards midnight, 1 o'clock, you can start to see some thunderstorms starting to organize a little bit more aggressively across northern Indiana, southern Michigan, back towards Chicago, as I talked about a little bit ago. And we go through the rest of the overnight, things really start to then move into more of northern Indiana and northwestern Ohio as we get towards 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Again, this is only one model run, so I wouldn't quite take this as the official forecast per se, but it is something to kind of watch, and we'll keep a close eye on that one. So then moving forward in time through the morning, this actually does become quite a nice line. This could be, again, the key word here is could, because we'll have to wait and see how this all were to go. But if we take a look at this overall, we could see this maybe turn out as kind of like an MCS kind of setup, but again, that will really depend on how organized this particular line were to get. So this is looking at 7 in the morning, so maybe some of you that are unfortunately not able to work from home, you're getting up and getting ready to go to work, you may have to deal with some shower and thunderstorm activity, again, primarily north of Interstate 70. Again, this is just round number 1. This works through, and it does kind of weaken, as kind of the National Weather Service offices have suggested. And we get into the afternoon, we kind of get a little bit of a break, and then towards evening time, this model keeps us, well, for the most part, fairly dry. A couple of thunderstorms try to pop up, but that's because there could be a cap in place. You heard Zach talk about that. A cap, we don't like to see a cap if we want thunderstorm development. That's not something that's very helpful. That does not really help us in the long run when we're looking at that potential for good thunderstorms to develop. We don't want to see a cap. Caps kind of make everything less fun. So again, that's just one model. If we go look at another model, again, another version of the WRF model, I'll only play through round 2, because round 1 looks very similar. But here's round 2. This is at around 8, 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Look at this. A much different scenario. A nice Boeing structure, another MCS again. So that would be number 2 potentially. So again, we're still dealing with that potential multiple rounds of severe weather. So that's going to be the key. Multiple rounds are possible. You got to have ways to receive warnings. But this lasts through the night, and then it slowly weakens as we get towards sunrise, and it exits the area. So one model has us staying relatively dry, and then the other one kind of has us in a little bit different situation. So I'm going to play that one back a little bit again, because I think some of the area kind of got cut off just a little bit. So I'll replay this back again. So as we kind of look through this, all right, we take this back. Here's round number 2, late evening tomorrow night. Again, really aggressive, really nice looking structure. And then this holds off and kind of, will hold on, I should say, and continue through the rest of the overnight and into the wee hours of Wednesday morning before it kind of diminishes. So we'll have to watch and see how this plays out. We talked about a cap. I want to go back. I want to explain what a cap is. Again, I'm not going to go over each and every model because every model looks different, and we'll talk about a little bit about that in a second. But we call this a capping inversion. And if you look at this, I know it may look like a foreign language to some of you, but I'll kind of walk through this. So the red line, that is temperature. If you look at the bottom, the temperature is measured in Celsius. So remember, 0 degrees is 32, or 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We all learned that back in elementary school. For some of us, it's been a little bit longer since we've learned that than others, but that's just kind of a general reminder to help you read the graph a little bit. And the green line, this is your dew point. This measures the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Most of us should also remember this as well. If we want good thunderstorms, we kind of want these red and green lines to be fairly close all the way up, and we want to see kind of a negative turn. Remember, as we go up in the atmosphere, the expectation is that we get colder the higher you go up into the atmosphere. Again, we all should have learned this a little bit in science class. It was kind of neat depending on when you took school and whatnot, but you can see here the red line, it kind of kinks a little bit just above the surface. On the left-hand side, this is your different millibars of pressure. So at the bottom, the lower that you are, this is closer to the surface. The higher up you go on the left-hand side, you're going way up into the tropopause and the highest levels of the atmosphere. So, and maybe that's a whole nother video. We can kind of break down the different levels of the atmosphere. But nevertheless, we have this red line. And again, we want this to try to stay negative. We want it to go from right to left and kind of tilt negative. Well, we have one little problem with that. Here at the surface, that red line kind of kinks off to the right. And when that happens, it means we have a capping inversion where instead of getting colder as we go up in the atmosphere, we're actually getting a little bit warmer. And that does not help thunderstorm development. That means when warmer air goes to rise, it's not going to be able to rise very far because that cap is going to prevent it from growing and becoming a really good thunderstorm. So, and that's not to say this cap cannot be broken, but if this cap holds strong tomorrow night, we're not going to see much in the way of thunderstorm development. And I think for some of you, that probably makes you a little happier. If this cap were to erode and break, in which for that to happen, it's very possible. Basically, we would just need the right ingredients, need the right amount of shear. We can't have too much wind shear. We have to have enough instability, which timing may not be very favorable for. So that's why there's some uncertainty in the forecast. If you remember back in the beginning, I told you there was some uncertainty, and this is why. The longer that cap holds, the better off we are. If that cap breaks, things could get a little rough tomorrow night and into Wednesday morning. So we'll watch that closely. Zach, anything else you want to add about the cap there?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. It'll just biggest question is, can we break the cap tomorrow to see some actual storms?
It's going to be the key. We'll have to watch and wait. We will kind of be in a watch and wait mode, it seems like, for the most of the day tomorrow. So again, I'm not going to go through each and every model run with you, but that just shows you that we do have multiple different scenarios could be possible. So, but again, right now it's fairly calm. We're not going to expect much activity for at least the next few hours. I'm going to try to catch some Z's, and you should too. For tonight, I would definitely not be concerned about anything unless you're up in Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana. I'll pull up the risk levels again. That would probably be a wise thing to look at. So let me pull this up again. So here's tonight's risk levels, as Zach alluded to. Did a very good job of showing that. Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, that darkest green zone. That's where that risk of severe weather is greatest for tonight, although it's not very great. That's just kind of the highlighted area from the Storm Prediction Center. Tomorrow is a much more widespread risk. Every single county in our coverage area is under some form of severe risk, and that means you got to have ways to receive warnings. Again, all modes are possible. That would mean damaging wind, large hail. That tornado threat's fairly low, so we'll have to watch and see how that goes. So I'm seeing some comments. Some of you guys are enjoying learning something new, so I hope that was a great lesson on the cap and kind of how that works. We'll have to watch tomorrow. The Weather Service in Wilmington does launch weather balloons twice a day. So we'll watch those. I'll be checking those soundings throughout the day. Those are actually called soundings when they're launching the balloons, so we get the data back. That's called a sounding. We look at that on a skew-T graph. So just, again, a little bit more nerdiness for you. We like to do that. So that's kind of where things stand. But again, tomorrow definitely not looking like an outbreak. Definitely not looking like a significant event, but just some isolated to scattered severe storms. Again, maybe we have a round in the morning time, and then another round in the afternoon, evening, and overnight. So we'll have to watch that closely. And then it's going to cool off after that. I did not really mention that, but it is going to cool off. Our 7-day forecast will be coming up shortly, and you'll see that. It's going to be much cooler later on this week and into the weekend. So with that, well, we're going to kind of wrap this up for now. Zach, is there anything else you want to add real quick, or are we good?
I think we're good. Just make sure, in particular, tomorrow night, and tonight for those in Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, Make sure you have a way to get a warning. That way, if you're sleeping, you wake up, you can get somewhere safe if need be.
Yeah, great words there. So with that, we're going to wrap up this video for Zach up in Northwest Ohio. I'm Nick Dunn here in Central Ohio. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe. We will be posting more updates later in the overnight and into tomorrow, and of course throughout the daytime tomorrow. So keep it tuned here to wherever you're watching this. Also be sure to check us out on YouTube. Search Ohio News and Weather. We were streaming that over there tonight. We also kind of plan on streaming that in multiple places. And one last thing before we go. This should be true for all of our Facebook pages. We're still doing some research into this, but there are different ways that you can find us on social media. You have Facebook. You can download, obviously, on the desktop and mobile app. You can watch us there. If you're on Twitter, we do have an alert service that will automatically post the alerts there. So, again, just another source. I don't want you to use that as a number one source for getting alerts, but it's just kind of another way that you can get alerts. All of the weather alerts, whether it be tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or flash flood warning, will automatically be posted there. YouTube, if you're on a streaming device, whether it be a Roku, a Fire Stick, or if you have the desktop or mobile app, search our channel, subscribe, and follow us. And then the biggest one that I'm going to give props to Kim McNatt on this one from last week, and again, this should be true on any weather page that you're watching us on. So if you're in the Mid-Ohio Valley, whether you're in the Miami Valley, if you're in Central Ohio, if you're in Northwest Ohio, wherever you may be watching us, if you have a Fire TV, download the Facebook Watch app. As long as you have your notifications turned on, when we go live, you'll get notification. You can go straight to this app on the Fire Stick TV, and you can watch us there. Great piece of information. It will kind of also free up some of your other devices. You might even be able to watch that perhaps on other Fire TV devices as well, but that's something we're still kind of looking at, so help one another. And again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Stay safe out there, and have ways to receive warnings, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, I'm sure, at some point or another. Have a great night, everyone.